Welcome one and all to another edition of the Snap UK podcast, covering off all things NFL from this side of the Atlantic with our usual dose of quality analysis, innuendo and arguments. Though no one here will be forced to defend their resume. In the doghouse with me tonight is myself, Johnny Frash, Gilo, Jimmy G and Griff. Fourth and Inches is too busy playing with his puppy, innuendo implied. The Colts, Patriots, Dolphins and Eagles were all on the bye this week, so we'll skip the usual debate on Jalen Hurts.
He's brilliant.
He's shit.
I'm undecided. And slide straight into the action and start with the obvious place, the Monday Night Football game between Rams and the Cardinals. So Rams 30, 23 Cardinals.
I even wrote it in the right way for you.
I'm not having that all this episode. That needs to stop now.
The Rams close to within a game of the Cardinals at the top of the NFC West following an almost faultless performance from Matt Stafford.
MVP.
Who is reigniting his claim for MVP. OBJ seems like a reborn wide receiver, and Cooper Kupp continues his charge for Offensive Player of the Year because, of course, he's not a quarterback, so he's not allowed to win the MVP. Gilo, do we agree that there's perhaps no stopping the Rams at the moment?
Well, they've got a great squad. I think that's been clear since pre-season, hasn't it? And I think Jefferson has been, a really good breakout for them. So when Woods got injured, you think, well, they've brought Beckham in, who's flattered to deceive the last couple of seasons. They're going to be a bit short of options. And then, there's also a few questions about Stafford. He'd had a couple of dodgy games. Was he that big an upgrade on Goff? And I think Griff said it last week. He what clearly is a very large upgrade on Goff. And I just think they're slightly more experienced than, say, the Cardinals. And it's got slightly more talent on both sides of the ball. But the Rams are going to be tough to stop. But I think, we'll come on to it later with our power rankings, but those top 5 or 6 teams in the NFC are all going to be very hard to stop. I suppose it's what we see a lot coming out of the NFC is that those teams beat each other up in the playoffs, and that will be interesting to see how it goes. But, the way the Rams have played.
They're coming into form at the right point, aren't they? They had that kind of little series of glitch results where you probably expected them to beat the 49ers and a couple of other teams.
They don't beat the 49ers very often.
No, the 49ers have always had their match, but they're coming into form and the right players are coming into form. Like I kind of put OBJ just looks like a completely different player in LA than he did in Cleveland or even towards the end of his stint in New York. It's like 3 games in a row of a touchdown now. He's proving to be an actual weapon. And you're right, Van Jefferson's taken that role that Woods and Deshaun Jackson had, where he just takes the top off of the defense. One thing to add, the Aaron Donald's first sack was brilliant. I'm not sure if you saw it, but he literally he destroys the guard. He literally just pushes the guard into Kyler Murray and absolutely obliterates him.
And he's been quite quietly good this season, hasn't he, Donald? He hasn't really got a lot of headlines, has he? And it's interesting to see that defense starting to step up, like you say, at the right time of the season.
Yeah. And they did this. They didn't have Jalen Ramsey in this game as well. He was out with COVID or just ill. He wasn't playing anyway, and they still managed to beat what was the top team in the NFC.
Yeah, let's not get too carried away with this result though. It's a one-score game. The Cardinals had the opportunity to go down the field with about 46 seconds on the clock. They recovered the onside kick, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
And then effectively Aaron Donald ended the game with a sack, but it was 1 or 2 missteps from a younger quarterback as opposed to Matt Stafford showing why he's an upgrade. The thing with Stafford that I think has become apparent this season is he still has a ceiling. He's not in the Brady, Rodgers, possibly Russell Wilson, but he's not in the Brady Rodgers class. He's somewhere in the middle of the next group.
Yeah.
And occasionally 2 or 3 times a season, he's going to throw in a shocker of a game. Now, he probably had 2 of those games in a row, and we started to doubt it. It's not going to happen often, but there's still a ceiling. And Kyler, on another day, has 46 seconds, and that's enough to go down the field, because a couple of times he evaded sacks on that last drive, and they got done for a holding penalty and a false start. On both times, he'd actually taken off and picked up the first down. So the Cardinals were, inches away, basically, from taking this to at least overtime. So for me, it does nothing to diminish the Cardinals' standing.
Definitely.
Connor was fantastic.
Yeah.
Christian Kirk looks brilliant down the field. He's effectively Justin Jefferson. Van Morrison, all of them. It's been a long day. And so I think that these two are basically toe-to-toe. I think they
absolutely are.
They're just going to stand, and it's going to be a Mike Tyson sort of fight, just going to punch each other in the mouth.
I suppose the difference is, or potentially the difference is in the playoffs, is the Cardinals haven't been in the playoffs for 5-6 years.
2016, so 5 years,
And then the Rams got to the Super Bowl with a worse squad.
Yes.
And Goff.
Yeah, I think Sean McVay has the edge in that, but I still think if you were picking a winner right now in the next game between these two, there's nothing to make you think the Rams would definitely win it. It's a 50-50 coin toss. We're going to do our power rankings at the end of the podcast, and I'll tell you now, I've still got the Cardinals above the Rams because I don't think if the Rams had blown them out, I'd have swapped them round. But they didn't. This was a 46-second drill right at the end of the game where Aaron Donald came up tops. That's it. That was the difference.
I think that for me, the big difference is that the Cardinals haven't got that Aaron Donald in their team anymore. They haven't got that difference maker. They've got a good defense. It's played very well, but they've got a lot of young players there. And since losing J.G. Watt, Chandler Jones hasn't been impeccable this year, as he has been in previous years. They haven't got that difference maker on the defense. So for me, if I've got the Rams just above the Cardinals, but it's tight. Like I said, it is a coin toss.
Because I'm sad, I was looking as well at the kicking game. If Justin Tucker didn't exist in this league, Matt Prater would just be getting plaudits every week.
He's got the most 50-yard field goals.
He has the most 50-yard field goals. He's got the most in the career, I think, as well. Like, it's just insane.
He did have the longest one until
Tucker.
Didn't he kick that in Denver? Doesn't count.
Yeah. It shouldn't count. But he's got a 62-yard one this year, not in Denver. So
he was in Detroit under the dome for ages as well.
But he could be invaluable going forward because we never really talk about kickers unless they're terrible. But there are probably 8 or 10 kickers in this league that you put money on, and the rest you just don't know what you're getting. Well, Prater's up at the top of that group. Worth bringing up for me.
Yep, should we move on?
Yeah, I think so. There's not a lot else to say. I want
they're two good teams, aren't they? They're both in the two
toe
of the top 5 teams.
James Conner looks like a different player at the Cardinals compared to the Steelers. He looks like he's off the leash. He always looked like they were holding him back.
He's been a steal in fantasy this year.
Of course he has
been. Yeah. Actually, Sony Michel looks good. The last couple of games, Sony Michel's looked like the Sony Michel that played for the Patriots.
Do you know what it is?
After he got drafted.
I was thinking about it. I think I said last time as well, the Patriots weren't impressed with his pass blocking ability, so they were happy for him to walk. And also he's got this knee injury history. But because he's not been lent on for the whole season, he's maybe going to be asked to carry the running game for 4 or 5 games. He can go all out for 4 or 5 games. He's averaging 4-point-something yards per carry in the last 2 games. And that's all you need if he just does that.
Have a Fournette-style season.
Yeah.
Turn up at the end. He's still only the number 2 running back, isn't he?
Yeah, that's it.
So he's a great number 2 running back.
Absolutely.
So elsewhere in the NFC West, the 49ers overcame the pain of losing to the Seahawks last week by scraping past the Bengals, 26-23, once again in overtime. The Bengals launched a fourth-quarter comeback from 14 points down against a stout defense led by the astonishingly good Nick Bosa, who has had a sack in his last 5 games, giving him 14 for the season. Of course, he's not even an offensive player, so he's definitely not allowed to be an MVP.
I'm on a mission, though, for Nick Bosa to get more recognition as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, because we hear a lot about TJ Watt, Myles Garrett. We've not heard anything about Nick Bosa, and he is dominating the league.
I think it's just because the Niners, have had a good few weeks, where we've seemed to have come back into it a little bit, apart from that Seahawks game. But I think there was quite a lot of negative press, wasn't there, about the Niners, from me and others. And I'm classing myself as press now.
The media.
The media. And I think that's the reason. I think there was just a lot of negativity, and you're struggling to pick out the positives. It's great. Does it have as much weight if you do great things that leads you to losses?
No.
So that's the reason, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, that entirely agree. But now they're winning. He's getting the stats, and
Yeah, I think Kittle being fit and back
makes a
it's
huge
the last few weeks with him actually. Not only is he blocking, but he's making plays.
13 receptions, 151 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, his touchdown this week was amazing as well.
Yeah.
He's just like twisted through about three players. And
well, his catch in overtime as well. He reached out and just plucked out.
I'm sure he produced an extra 1.5 foot of height when he leapt up for that as well. It was mad.
So he came back in week 9. He's had 38 catches, which is tied most amongst tight ends, 530 yards, which is 120 yards more than any other tight end, and 6 receiving touchdowns, which is first amongst all NFL players. Like, he's the best
Which
tight
may
end.
be why I made a big surge in fantasy and made the playoffs in one of our leagues
might
after
help,
being
yeah.
terrible. Because missing him did not help me.
No.
But he is that good.
Yeah.
And he took a couple of weeks to get fit as well. So most of those stats have
Been in the last couple of weeks, really.
He's
been
just
awesome.
gone crazy.
Well, yeah, a few weeks ago we were going, he's very quiet, isn't he? And then he's exploded. But he's great. That's why.
I think the Bengals were not helped in this game by the fact that Mixon wasn't well enough to be Joe Mixon. He had been brilliant the last few weeks, and he clearly
had the flu, didn't he?
He'd had some sort of flu. They basically went all the way to say it's nothing related to COVID, but he hadn't practiced all week, and it looked like it.
It helped me beat you in fantasy this
It
week.
did because if he'd have had a game like he had the week before, it'd have been much closer. But
there is a point. Like Burrow played really well. Like again, I think he's
25 of 34, 348 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both quarterbacks, by the way, got sacked 5 times, which shows you how good the defenses were in this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was just say, I think the loss could be down to the use of Mixon and Burrow, because they should have lent more. Burrow was playing great, and actually, I know that he got sacked a few times, but they could have gone to him more on first, second downs, especially like near the end.
Yep.
They could have actually stopped it going to overtime, but they stopped going to Burrow.
Yeah, they had 2 big completions down the field to get to the red zone.
And then they went
hand off, sack.
And then hand off, sack, and suddenly you've lost momentum.
We've kind of mentioned it. Like the 49ers' defensive line is good. The defensive backs at the moment are terrible.
Yeah.
So they should. I know they should have been passing it more.
Yeah. Because there was one of your DBs gave away a foul, and the next play,
Demaryius Thomas.
He had a shocker.
It was his first start.
Yeah, a bit of baptism of
we've
fire.
had nothing at cornerback for years now. Since Sherman stopped.
Yeah, Sherman did.
Since he stopped running
this game, didn't he?
in the Super Bowl, since he stopped running at that point, when he realised he couldn't run anymore, we've had nothing there.
When he was staring at Williams behind, and it's been it. Yeah, I felt the 49ers are a decent team, but I thought this game was there for the winning, and I think the Bengals sort of
Bengals gave it away with 2 fumbled punt returns.
Yeah,
Darius Phillips,
Yep.
who, by the way, was put on injured reserve an hour ago. I think they probably broke his legs in the locker room.
Broke his soul.
Because
bruised ego.
Yeah.
both times he just misjudged the final trajectory of the ball and let it drop through his arms and onto his legs.
So it was so nice as a 49er fan watching the 49ers on red zone and the punt coming, just knowing how bad the special teams has been in the last few weeks, thinking, well, this is going to be a run back. And then being pleasantly surprised that actually it worked in our favour.
I think when I heard the clip and it said that there's been another muff punt, I thought, where's Brando Ayuk? What's going on?
I don't know, as a coach, whether once your return man muffs the first one, do you leave him out there for the second one or do you not? And it seems to be just down to the individual coach, because some do.
Yeah.
And some take the player straight out and he doesn't return kicks for the rest of the game. They left him in and it was 2 in one half of the game. And it's like...
I guess it depends on the coach and on the player, because, some players, like, they'll make a mistake and the first, it's wiped.
it's gone.
They're just gone.
Brady.
Yeah.
Garoppolo, to be fair.
Yeah, he's pretty good, yeah.
Some, maybe... young player just doesn't have the
Let me tell you,
mentality.
Darius Phillips does not fall into that, because you could see the second time he was thinking, I really hope I don't muff this. It did not go well. It was mistakes for the Bengals. Again, a bit like we were just talking about, on a slightly sort of further down the boxing card, if you like. But these 2 teams are not that far apart.
Yeah.
And next week, if they were playing, I wouldn't know which one to pick.
Yeah, and I think it's... I think that's still fair, isn't it? The Bengals were not going to just suddenly go from where they were last year to, to being like a 10-6 team. Well, they might be 10-6, but they've still progressed so far.
Yeah,
Burrow's looks so that's comeback player of the year, 100%. And I know Paul's not here to shout about Derwin James, but
he's second in the booking. He's second in the booking for it.
Really? Behind
Prescott, who I don't understand.
Well, right now, if you're asking me to choose between those two, I'm choosing Burrow
all day, every day.
But
again,
I mean,
Bosa should be in that conversation.
If there was a top 5, I still don't think Dak would make it into my top 5.
No.
I think you've got Bosa, you've got Derwin James, you've got Dak, Burrow. Yeah, you've got many players, and we'll get on to Dak. But yeah, so anything to add for the 49ers?
No, I was just going to say though, to your point, Gary, I think if the Bengals do carry on this trajectory, I think they're the team to beat next year. Because you look at all those other teams in the AFC North, I think there's problems on every single one. Maybe bar the Ravens if they can come back fit.
Well, 2 of them won't necessarily have a quarterback that they've currently got, and the third one, it's injuries galore every year.
Yeah. Well, we're about to come on to the Browns, aren't we?
Well,
it's bizarre because I think we make a deal about coaching all the time. I think the Bengals have the worst coach, but I still think they might be the best
Is it
team.
worst or is it least experienced?
We'll see.
Both, I guess.
Possibly.
But yeah, so with the Bengals losing, the Ravens had the opportunity to extend their lead at the top of the AFC North, but instead were unable to finish off the fight back and lost to the Browns 24-22. Lamar Jackson exited the game earlier, so it was left to Tyler Huntley to overcome the formidable Browns defense, and he almost got there.
So close.
Injuries are decimating the Ravens' season.
Do we have any clarity on Lamar?
Still waiting. Ankle injury. I think the reports are that, well, the Ravens are saying, it's fine, he's going to be fine, but I don't know, an ankle injury with that type of quarterback, I'd fear the worst. And I think that their offensive line is injured, their defensive line is injured, the defensive backs are all injured.
The thing with Tyler Huntley is in the 2 games he's appeared in, or 3 games he's appeared in this season, he doesn't look any worse a passer than Lamar. He had 270 yards and a touchdown, 27 of 38 in this game. He outplayed Baker. He didn't score at all in the second half.
That's because Case Keenum was playing for most of it.
No, he only played a few snaps.
Yeah,
it was still funny though.
Refused to play.
Yeah, basically Baker refused to stay in the blue tent, and he kept sticking his head out and having a look to see when it was going to be his turn again.
I mean, he claims to be a lot fitter after their bye week last week even. Sorry, but he doesn't look very good, and he hasn't looked good all season. And this is the season he needs to look good. He's in a contract year. They take the 5th year option. They're paying him $20 million, but
he also accused the coach of being conservative, didn't he, in his presser?
Oh, did he? I did not see that.
Yeah, which I don't think will have gone down particularly well.
Wow.
Because, at the end of the game, he didn't think they were aggressive enough. That's why they lost.
He might be right, and he is entitled to his opinion, but he's on some shaky ground because if the Browns were asked to choose between Baker and Stefanski right now, they're choosing Stefanski all the time. It's not even close. I think they'll go for the 5th year option and hope that he plays well, but not so outstanding that they have to pay him an absolute fortune. But it's the Kirk Cousins risk, which is if he suddenly plays lights out, you're going to lose him if you don't pay him $40 million, and he's not worth that because the following season he'll be terrible again. Yeah. I don't know what they're supposed to do. There isn't anyone in the draft that I think is going to be better than him. If they could trade for Jimmy G, I don't know whether he'd be an upgrade or not. I think he probably would be, but I don't know if he'd
parity at worst, wouldn't he? And
he'd be cheaper.
He'd probably be cheaper.
See, if he's cheaper and you can build other things, why would you keep Baker?
Yeah.
But that's the problem for the offseason. Problem for right now for the Browns is Kareem Hunt is hurt again. He's not practicing this week. He exited the game after 2 carries. And
Nick Chubb doesn't look as good as what you did.
Yeah, Nick Chubb needs Kareem Hunt.
Well, I think he still doesn't look.
He's still injured.
No, but it's like we said about Alvin Kamara. Always plays better when Mark Ingram's there on the team, taking 30% of the carries and doing the bulldozing work. Well, Nick Chubb needs someone to share this workload with because Baker's not that good.
Well, when you think about it, the running backs do basically a bleep test, don't they? Continuously through an offensive set. So that's why you see them go in and out of the game because they're just doing shuttle runs. They're not doing a 100-metre run, are they, most of the time, and then getting half an hour to cool down, are they?
They're not for net.
No, but you see what I mean, though? It's like 10 yards, shuttle run, 10 seconds. Another it's intense.
Yeah.
It's a shuttle run as well with 4 men on your back.
Absolutely. I know
Something you've experienced?
More than once.
Yes.
Yeah. We talked about OBJ getting better in LA, but I don't think losing him has probably had the desired effect that we thought it might. We always said that the Browns have been playing better without him. I just don't think that's the case anymore. I've seen
Jarvis Landry just doesn't look like Jarvis Landry.
No, Jarvis Landry has always been a good number 2 receiver. I don't think he's ever been a primary receiver.
I think it's Baker.
That.
I think it's Baker.
I think it's
Baker. Baker's not fit.
DPJ played well in this game, 90 yards.
Yeah.
I think Baker's probably a more abrasive character, even more so off air than he is on air. You know, he was a dick in college.
That was the very word I was about to use. Do you think he's just a dick?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
In which case, that may well just not rub well with other people.
Yeah.
And you don't want your dick to
Because
rub
that
off badly on
defense is
people.
amazing. That Myles Garrett strip and recovery for the touchdown was amazing.
Oh, that was brilliant, yeah.
Literally,
Just kept going,
that defense is so good.
The defense is really good. Denzel
Really
Ward
good.
is one of the
They
best
won that game.
cornerbacks.
They got a touchdown and they stopped the Ravens.
Yeah.
The Browns won that. They won that game because of the defense, not because of
absolutely.
Baker.
No, absolutely. But I keep looking for what the upside to the Ravens is, and they seem to pull off a result every other week.
Mark Andrews,
superb, absolutely.
number 1 fantasy tight end for the season.
11 receptions, 115 yards and a touchdown. And again, some of the catches are awesome. He's out muscling 3 defenders, or suddenly he's loose in the middle of all this space, and you think the guy is massive. How are you not?
And he's the only person they throw to.
Yeah, well,
ever.
It does seem that way.
Where's Marquise Brown? I literally have no idea.
He's
chasing balls that are going way over his head.
Yeah.
But I think Harbaugh is a good coach. He's keeping this
the
team
resurrection
going.
of Devonta Freeman, by the way,
Yeah.
continues. 13 carries, 64 yards. I mean, he's doing his job. He looks every bit an NFL player, which he hadn't done for like 2 years.
Latavius Murray went in for a touchdown as well, didn't he?
Yes. Of his 1 carry.
1 carry, 1 yard, 1 touchdown.
Efficient.
1-1-1.
What more do you want? That is the way to earn some money.
Nelson.
Yes, 1-1-1 Nelson. Cricket reference there, John. Well done.
Niche reference. So.
Very niche reference.
That's all I know.
Well, the Ashes is on, but we won't mention
the Ravens are 8-5. The Browns are 7-6. I don't have the 2 schedules in front of me, but I've got a feeling the Browns have the easier schedule.
The Browns have got Raiders, Packers, Steelers, Bengals.
Ugh.
Okay.
And did you want the Ravens as well?
That'd be useful for a comparison.
The Ravens isn't good.
No.
Packers, Bengals, Rams, Steelers.
So it could. One's got the Raiders, one's got the Rams.
Yeah.
Basically, other than that, they're the same.
Other than that, it's more or less the same. Yeah. So
I think this division could go to any of the teams really. Like if
it won't be the Steelers.
I don't think it will be the Steelers, but you wouldn't be surprised to see them beat both the Ravens and the Browns.
It is a crazily even
Yeah.
division.
It is a very even division. I would be surprised if it's the Steelers. But other than that, any one of the other 3.
I was trying to work out actually the other day whether it is even possible if they all win one of each to get all 4 teams into these wildcards now or not.
Now, at the start of the year, it's definitely possible. I don't know what it is with
Now,
the current records.
Once they start beating each other within the division, I think it's set up so that
If they all go to 3-3, I was trying to work out if they're all at 3-3, that's a lot of games still, isn't it, for them to get to?
Yes, but because they then play teams from different divisions in the other conference, you get all sorts of different things come into it.
Yeah.
Further down.
I was just trying to
it's
work
set
it
up-
out.
I think it's set up so you can't have all 4 teams.
Just get the 3.
I think it's just mathematically
Because
impossible.
At the moment, it looks like it.
I don't think it
could
is
happen.
No, theoretically it's possible, but I think mathematically
Yeah.
it doesn't work because of the way they're divided up. But I have never sat there and worked it out because I've got a proper job. Anyway,
You actually said something earlier about you being sad and looking up something. So don't go on about your proper job now.
I am extremely sad, let's be honest.
Well, I'm not going to say anything there. So, continuing the theme of failed comebacks, the Steelers almost got one over on the Vikings on Thursday night, but in the end failed to convert, losing 36-28, partly due to the showboating of Chase Claypool, which was hilarious.
He wasted like 12 seconds or something stupid.
Yeah.
That's like 2 plays.
I know, he was not a popular man.
Luckily, Mike Tomlin is a really chill guy. But yeah,
it's like being yelled at by B.A. Baracus. I'm not sure I fancy that very much.
Cousins has had a great season, but struggled against the Steelers' defense, lacking the usual impact of T.J. Watt. who missed most of the game with a groin injury. Are the Steelers doomed to miss out on the playoffs if they can't keep their premium pass rusher fit?
I think we need to give a bit more respect to primetime Cousins. He might have struggled a bit, but this was a Thursday night game, and he didn't lose it.
He didn't lose it.
He was on TV, and he won.
But he didn't win it.
But he still won on TV.
He took a significant step backwards to what we've seen of him this year. He has been, I'm not going to say brilliant, but he's been close to, for that team. And he's 14 for 31, 216 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
You're looking at the box score. All you have to do is drop your eyes a quarter of an inch down the page, and what do you get to?
You get Dalvin Cook, 27 carries, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, coming off a pretty serious injury the week before.
It seems to be, basically, he said, well, we're not getting to the playoffs without me, so I might as well go out there, injured or otherwise, and get us to the playoffs if I can. Don't forget, the Vikings are only 6 and 7. It's nothing special. But they're going nowhere without Dalvin Cook, because Kirk Cousins will fail. He will fail.
Where is Kirk Cousins next to Matt Stafford?
Miles behind him.
Would you say miles? I think there's a big gap there.
Not this
Knowing
year.
Cousins, I hope at least 2 meters away from him.
In terms of the talent, he's miles behind him.
Performance. I'm not talking about
this
talent.
year.
Form, I think they're level.
Yeah, agreed. This year.
Okay, take the last 5 years. Performance.
I don't think...
I think that's quite a close comparison,
It's closer than
Cousins
I would like
to
it
Stafford.
to be. Yeah. I think that's fair. But if you gave me 100 chances to pick one of the two, I would pick Matt Stafford 100 times.
And I think if you put Matt Stafford on the Vikings team over the last
I'm not talking about your hope. I'm talking about actual performance.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. And I think it's fair.
He's been playing in Detroit for 4 of the last 5 years, and Detroit are terrible.
Cousins played for the football team before they were even the football team.
If you wanted one of them to quarterback your team, which one would you pick?
Stafford.
Cousins.
Stafford.
No, Stafford.
Yeah, no one's picking Kirk Cousins.
But the Vikings this year as well, I know they're 6 and 7, but if
Again,
it's been so tight, they could be 11 and 3 now, or 10 and 3, and
you couldn't argue.
You couldn't argue it because
you couldn't.
It's been
I agree.
those sort of results. It's a strange league this year, and I both like it and dislike it.
I really like it. I mean, we're coming onto it in the power
Well,
rankings,
I think
but there's so many 6 and 7 and 7 and 16.
I think I like it, but I also follow a team who, in this sort of time of unpredictability, are really predictably bad. So
we ought to give Big Ben some credit. 28 of 40, 308 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick. He was sacked 5 times. The guy cannot move. He cannot get out of the way. And these days, he's no longer strong enough to shrug people off, which he used to do. He never used to run away from anyone.
No,
he used to bulldoze them over.
Yeah.
But I thought it was one of the best games I've seen him play in a year. And really, this again, we've said it all the way through this podcast. It's 2 teams that are so closely matched that you couldn't tell me next week the Steelers wouldn't win if they played again.
No.
There's just no way you could say that.
I completely agree. I know we moan about Chase Claypool there. He had a really good game. He's not been brilliant this year. Like last year, he came out as a rookie and he was awesome. This year, I think he's been middle of the road. He had a good game, 8 receptions, 93 yards, made a nuisance of himself. But just the idiocy of that final play. You've got to be game aware.
Yeah, I mean, as well as he's had so much to know not to do this, because I mean, Juju was there last year dancing on. Didn't he dance on the Bengals?
Yeah.
And the first thing that happened was the Bengals eviscerated him. So he should know.
More on that topic coming up later.
He should know that. I mean, he's fucking stupid. And but Claypool, I mean, he's built like a tight end. He's a bit like Mike Evans in a sort of build. He should be. If they can get a decent quarterback next year, because I know as Ben said, personally, apparently in the changing rooms has said he's going, but then publicly has said he's staying. I think
he ain't staying.
He's not staying.
I mean, I hope not.
I think as soon as
actually I do. I hope he stays because
if he says he's staying, then they'll have to let him go.
Yeah,
because they don't want him.
No, but yeah, if they can get a decent quarterback, I mean, they've got Deontay Harris, Johnson. They've got great wide receivers there. Well, I say great, but they've got good wide receivers, serviceable wide receivers, and Najee Harris. He's having a great year.
Yeah. Also,
Most carries in the league, is it?
Well, only player with over 200 carries who's not fumbled.
They're going to need a mini rebuild, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean,
Just a changing of the guard,
Yeah, there needs work on the offensive line. Obviously needs work on the quarterback. But the rest of the team's pretty good still.
Mike Tomlin is safe in that job for as long as he wants the job.
Yeah, they don't.
And that's the right thing.
They don't fire coaches.
No, but that's the right thing because they should say to him, "Here's another 5-year contract. Build the team how you like," because that team will be
He's
successful.
never had a losing season, so he should be fine.
This might be it,
and he's not Jeff Fisher, so it's fine. So just before we move on, Stafford to Cousins over the last 5 years, their pass rating is very, very close. And for over their career, Stafford was pretty poor at the start of his career.
Yeah.
So Cousins is about 6 points higher.
Oh, really?
98 QB rating.
I'll still take Stafford over Cousins.
We all would, but the comparison is fair.
Yeah, it's very close when you look at their careers.
Yeah, I can see that.
So Sunday Night Football saw Aaron Rodgers continue his domination of the
He
Bears.
owns them.
He owns them. So it was the Packers 45, 30 the Bears.
Twat.
So for the Bears, Justin Fields came back.
He's never read anything before.
I just like how much it annoys Gary.
It's not just annoying Gary. let me make that very clear.
Our listeners, all 8 of them, which are mainly us.
Well, no one's mentioned it apart from you. Justin Fields came back into the lineup and looked decent, both of his arms and his legs. And actually, the Bears' play calling was probably the best it's been this year. Rodgers is still masterful, though, and the Packers' defense is as good as anyone's in the league. Are the 2021 Packers better than the 2020 version, and do they have enough to get by the Bucs?
Doesn't matter, they'll lose in the championship game, wouldn't they?
But that's the question.
They'll lose in the championship game. They're not quite good enough. When you look across the squad, they're not as good as the Cardinals or the Rams or potentially the Cowboys or the Bucs.
I think they're better than the
They'll
Cowboys.
beat the Cowboys.
Would they?
Yeah.
Do you think their ceilings, they've got Adams. When you look at that receiver, which receiver core would you want then?
I'd take the Cowboys receiver.
Okay, so you take the...
Yep.
Which offensive line would you want?
Offensive line at the moment.
Bucks.
The Cowboys and the Packers.
Oh, sorry, Cowboys.
Probably the Packers. The Cowboys have got some injuries.
I know. Okay, but
That
take out the injuries.
for me is a coin flip.
Yeah.
That's really tight. Running backs?
I would
Packers.
take Packers.
Yeah, but that's tight, isn't it?
No, not at the moment.
Zeke hasn't been great.
Zeke's not great. Pollard's
been
injured.
Pollard's injured.
Yeah, I think that's the Packers.
Jones
Tight
and AJ
ends.
Dillon.
Schultz has done well this year, hasn't he? Tonyan's been a
been
bit quiet.
Tonyan's been injured.
I think Gary's right on that. I think Cowboys.
I think all that matters.
I think it's really
I
close.
think it's
All that
tight,
matters
but Aaron Rodgers is far better than Dak Prescott.
I think that's
far better.
That's what tips the
Do you know,
balance is Aaron Rodgers.
But we're talking about the Cowboys and it's tight.
What
we start talking about the Rams.
Yeah, but what I think is Aaron Rodgers. This might not be a better Packers team. This might be the same as last year's team.
It's an angrier Aaron
Rodgers is fucking pissed off, and he is just determined to win this thing and then go, "I'm off then." Bye then. Just going to go out slinging the V at people. He's just going to drive around the stadium, flicking off Brian Good. That's what it feels like. And you kind of think he might actually pull that off. I don't know. His hair flying out the back of his helmet, he looks a bit like if someone stuck a helmet on Thor. And he's just whizzing around the field doing things that he really shouldn't be getting away with doing. He's making Alan Lazard look like a legitimate NFL number 2 wide receiver, which is bizarre. I can't help but be impressed. I think the guy's a bit of a knob at times.
I think the guy's a massive knob.
Incredibly
he's an
impressive.
Brilliant player, and I've never denied that. He's walking into the Hall of Fame.
He's brilliant to watch as well.
Brilliant.
The way he plays.
Absolutely.
Like Brady's great, but he's a bit robotic to watch. Whereas, Rodgers does it with flair, doesn't he?
He does, but sometimes when he throws and he knows it's going for a touchdown before he's let the ball go, and he's just sort of trudging off to the sidelines it's going to be a score. And you're okay.
I mean, like you say, Brady is brilliant, obviously, but I genuinely think Aaron Rodgers is probably the best.
More talented.
Yeah, more talented and probably the best quarterback we've seen.
Imagine if Belichick had Rodgers.
Yeah.
How many Super Bowls would they have won?
God, yeah, don't.
Did you see his fake handoff?
Oh, it was amazing. Well, no, he handed it off. The fake, and he just sort of walked to the side.
So smooth. So brilliant.
But I think this Packers team probably is better than last year because the defense is better.
Yeah.
That's the reason why it's better than last year.
Fitter than last year, I think. We should say, though, the Bears did put 30 points on him.
I said this about Justin Field in the intro. He played really well. The play calling was so much better.
Jakeem Grant was incredible.
Yeah. The special teams were great.
97-yard punt return. Also, you can add 15 extra yards on that because he ran across the field first. Yeah. That's the first punt return touchdown of the season.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
The defense was playing really well. Robert Quinn got to Aaron Rodgers a couple of times. I think if the Bears had played any other team with that performance, probably would have got a win.
Do you know, Justin Fields, in limited showings this season, looks like what Kyler Murray was looking like when he started. I think Justin Fields, with the right coach, is another Kyler Murray. I really do. He has the athleticism and the vision to pull off all these sorts of fancy plays that mean defenses are going to have to play very loose. They're not going to be able to just go man and hope for the best. I think he needs the coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like him. I liked him coming into the draft. I think he's actually played really well.
He's the second best rookie quarterback this season,
yeah,
by a mile.
Yeah,
if Mac Jones is at the top, and he must be, even if it's not on him, Justin Fields is easily in second place because Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson have done nothing, and Trey Lance has literally done nothing because he hasn't played. It's not even fair to include him.
He's not thrown a ball in 6 weeks.
That's what I mean. It's not fair to include him in the comparison.
Well, I think both me and Jim said we would take Fields in the draft last year.
Yeah.
He looked like the player who was likeliest to go on and do great things. Mac Jones, everyone thought was ready, but we weren't sure how good. If you took him out of the Patriots, how good would he be? Like, he throws a good ball, Mac Jones, but if he's behind a bad offensive line with a bad scheme, I think he's in trouble.
So much of success of any rookie, really, but particularly quarterbacks, so much that success is based on where they land. What's the organisation around? Do they have playmakers around them? Do they have good play calling? And are they protected?
I'm not sure that the Patriots, for instance, and we shouldn't talk about them too long because they didn't play this week, but they would never have taken a Zach Wilson because he wasn't ready. And I'm not sure they'd have taken a Trey Lance because he wasn't ready. They might have taken Justin Fields if he was there. They took Mac Jones because they know that they can basically turn him into a robot and he will follow the rules. And if they'd have drafted Trevor Lawrence would be easily the best rookie quarterback in the league because it's organisation. Yeah. It's like I say, it's not fair to say Mac Jones is so far better. He's just better because he's in the right organisation.
Yeah,
he's fallen to the right place. But I'm really impressed with Justin Fields. The Bears scored 30 points on what we've just said is a much improved Packers defence. And, all right, some of it was special teams play, but he was in the game. And I think the Bears have their quarterback for the future. They don't have their coach for the future. That's the problem.
I think we all know that. Yeah, even Matt Nagy knows that.
But this is a bit like, what's his name? Was it Vance Joseph at the Chargers?
Yeah.
Like, he was doing okay. They were winning. They were 8-8 or whatever. But suddenly they'd got Herbert, and the upper management were like, we can't waste this. We have to get this guy coached now. Get it done.
Especially on rookie contracts where you're saving so much money.
And the Bears will have to do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the match between the Lions and the Broncos was marred by the sad passing of a former Broncos receiver, Demaryius Thomas, at the age of 33.
That is not an appropriate place to laugh, is it, John?
Just like saying Broncos. But yeah, Demaryius Thomas died last week. Age 33. So the former Pro Bowler and Super Bowl winning player was honoured during the match with the Broncos taking the first snap with just 10 men on the field and the Lions declining the penalty.
That was class.
It was class all round because it had been discussed in advance. The rest knew it was happening. Dan Campbell was all on board with that. It was a good tribute, and it's shocking to see somebody of that age that we have grown up going, right, where's he going to go in fantasy?
Yeah.
This guy's going to be, 4th, 5th round in fantasy, which is high for a receiver.
I had both Thomases.
Yeah.
For the very early...
the couple of Manning years.
Yeah.
Before we even started our league, when I was playing in a different league, I had Demaryius Thomas every year I could get him, and I just ran with as many Thomases as I could find. And honestly, I had a love for that guy. I won a fantasy league on the back of Demaryius Thomas and Julius Thomas. They were amazing at that Broncos team.
Throw in Decker at that time. That was probably the best receiving core.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it helps having Peyton Manning, but Demaryius Thomas he was good with other quarterbacks as well. He made Tim Tebow look decent.
He only actually retired in June.
Yeah, I know.
Did he catch the Tim Tebow?
Yeah, he was the pass to beat the Steelers in the playoffs.
But yeah, June. He retired in June.
It's
Like,
it's
they're saying
shocking,
it's a
isn't it?
medical issue, which is sad. There's been loads of stuff around all the stuff he did in the community and with children's charities and stuff. Just a genuinely great guy. Never heard a bad
It's a
story
number
about him.
who's getting retired. 88 will be in that
Yeah,
ring
yeah.
of honour.
Yeah.
Rightly so. It's a sad passing.
Yeah.
It is. There was Chris Harris catching the ball and dunking on the
88 on the floor. Yeah, it was. It's clearly something that affected the whole team. It's still a big character in that building.
Hugely.
And the Broncos have kept on beating bad teams. That's what they've done all season.
Yeah.
Like they've lost to good teams and beaten the bad teams, but they've played a few of the bad ones.
That could be a system that gets them into the playoffs. I don't think anybody really wants
7 and 6. I think
They
they've
are
got a
7
great
and
shot.
6.
They're another 7 and 6 team.
Yeah.
They've got the same record as the Bills.
Which
And the Bengals.
Yep.
I heard on another podcast, somebody said if Vic Fangio had told upper management he'd have the same record of the Bills after week 13, they'd be like, that'd be amazing.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot to discuss on the Bills.
Yeah,
Especially
I think it will
from a certain Mr. Farrow who had them tipped to win the Super Bowl.
We should point out this game was 38-10 in favour of the Broncos. The Lions basically didn't turn up. It's
Not after the Lord Mayor's show, wasn't it? We mentioned it on Sunday.
Yeah, it was going to go one way or the
last
other.
week.
They were either going to win again and be on a roll, or they were just going to get blown out, and that is what happened. Dan Campbell just looked distraught. He just looked like, I don't know how to motivate these players.
I know you said one way or another. I think it was going one way.
I mean, let's be fair to them. They had 22 players
Yes.
out with either injury, COVID, or the flu. 22 players. That's basically
I'm guessing
half
they
the
went to a party last weeek.
Who knows? But even way, their leading rusher was Craig Reynolds.
Didn't we go to school with him?
I thought he was just a cameraman on Sky Sports or something.
Would you like to pronounce the name of the second rusher?
Godwin Igabuki.
Well done.
That's a pure guess, and I apologise to Godwin if that's incorrect. But
Yeah. They were getting receptions off Amras and Brown, who we now
course,
know
yeah.
is
He's a
quality
decent,
player. Josh Reynolds.
Brock Wright.
Yep. And then, some bloke, Kennedy, Hodge and Decker, who I assume were three blokes they drafted in off the streets.
To be fair, Taylor Decker is the right tackle.
I think all I and non-Lions fans care about is that DeAndre Swift comes back ready for the fantasy playoffs. Literally, nobody else cares anything else about them. They've got their win. They're not good. They're not good.
Considering who was thrown to and following our weekly tradition, I will point out Jared Goff was not a problem in this game.
No,
He's
he
not the
wasn't,
reason
no.
the Lions were bad.
But
24 of 39 to the cast of people we've just talked about.
We
He
said-
might as well have been thrown to us for.
We said last week, didn't we? They're not going to be using their draft capitals to go and get a quarterback next year. Goff's safe for a year, I think.
And I mean, to be fair, given everything that we've chatted about that's happened this week, I don't think anyone would have beaten the Denver Broncos
No.
because they were playing.
The only way it would, if this swirl of emotions had got too much in it, But I think there were
Melvin Gordon was excellent.
I was about to
Javonte
say,
Williams as well.
that 1-2 running attack, best in the league at the moment.
I don't know if it's the best, but it's top five.
In terms of form,
I think Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon
The Packers
been amazing.
Yeah,
Over the last
and I think
4
what the
weeks.
Patriots have been churning out from their backfield has been brilliant. I think there's a few, but they're in the top five.
Yeah.
And if you'd have told me Melvin Gordon would be part of a top five
Do you know
running back
what?
system,
John, at the start of the season, me and John did some mock drafts, and he said right at the start of the season, Teddy Bridgewater isn't that great. Melvin Gordon,
Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams are going to both be brilliant this year.
yeah.
So, to be fair, I don't give John much credit because he doesn't deserve it. But but with that one, spot on.
Damning with faint
Isn't
praise is what that is.
I think Javonte Williams is probably a top 10 fantasy pickup next year, isn't he?
Yeah,
is.
I suspect he will be, especially if he stays on this team, because the O-line is doing
It's
a
the
good job.
one good thing about my legacy league.
It's the only thing about your legacy league, isn't it? The rest of it's terrible. Anyway, nobody needs to discuss that. Other than that, Teddy did fine, 18 of 25. He's just distributing the ball around, waiting for a hole for the running game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we say it again every week. On the games when he just manages a game and isn't overworked, he's excellent at that. He's Alex Smith level, winning games out
I
of that.
think their first few drives, didn't they ran it 18 times and passed it 5 times.
Does it make you wonder
That's what he needs to
how good Teddy could have been if he hadn't have got that horrific injury?
If he could still run like he first did.
How good? Because he passes the ball better than Lamar.
Yeah, he does.
So how good could he have been if he hadn't have had that horrific injury?
He's always going to be slightly hampered and slightly limited, but he will also always find himself on a team because he is not the reason you lose. And that is what Alex Smith made a career out of. He was not the reason you lost. He just wasn't the reason you won. And I think that's fine. There's 10 or 12 teams every year who will kill for that because their quarterbacks are awful.
I think the Panthers would kill to have him back right now.
The Saints.
I know that there's going to be a lot of talk about who's going to be at the Broncos next year, but if they can't get Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, there's nothing wrong with sticking with Teddy Bridgewater.
Absolutely, stick with him.
It's not a major upgrade if it's not one of them two, is what I'm getting at.
Completely agree.
No, agree. So are the Chiefs back or are the Raiders...
These two statements are not mutually exclusive. The Chiefs are back. The Raiders are turd in a bucket.
So it was 48-9.
Which is also Paul's favourite punk band, I believe. Turd in a bucket.
Heaviest defeat in the Raiders franchise history.
That shocks me, by the way. How is that the heaviest? They have been chuffing crap for a lot of my lifetime. How is that the heaviest defeat?
I know.
I think teams would just stop putting points on them in the past.
Scorigami.
It was.
Yeah.
So Chiefs scored on the first play of the game, despite the Raiders being on offense.
It was amazing. There was nothing good about this team.
It was downhill from there.
You know how Perry, our resident Raiders fan, often concedes fantasy games on the first kick of a Thursday night? Well, he did that at this game. He texted me and was like, well, that's over for the Raiders then. And I believed him for a change. And he was right, because they were terrible. Somewhere in here it says about how they were contending after my statement earlier in the year. I'd like to point out Eddie Eagle-Edwards was contending at the Olympics one year, and that didn't go well either. So it's all it's fallen off a cliff. It's over.
He was attending. The Raiders are
they're attending.
Attending.
They're definitely there.
But they're not. They are not contending.
We did chat about Juju doing that little dance on the Bengals logo. The Raiders had a team talk on the Chiefs logo this week, and
didn't go well, did it?
Didn't go down well. There were just things you shouldn't do.
I mean, it's optics, isn't it? It's just you should know.
Don't give the opposing team more ammo. Don't slag them off in the press, because all the coach has to do is put the newspaper up on the
You're
team
doing
wall.
the coach's job for you. You know
what we shouldn't ignore from this game is, whilst the Chiefs are now in a roll, that's 6 wins in a row.
Yep.
Pat Mahomes still isn't Pat Mahomes, because 20 of 24 sounds fine, but 258 yards and 2 touchdowns and sacked 3 times. That is not what you expect. Now, it may just be that he's regressed slightly to the mean. People have figured out how to play him, all these other things. But I still think they've got another 2 gears to go on offense, and yet they just put 48 points on the Raiders.
I completely agree with you. I don't think he had to do much. That's the thing. And I think it's good that he's got 2 gears to go at this point in the season, and they've won 6 in a row.
They were constantly in such good field position. But
I saw a little GIF on Facebook or somewhere earlier where it was like a hunter, and they put little Chiefs on a deer when they were 4 and 5 or whatever, or whatever it was, and now won 6 games in a row, whatever it was, and they're like, oh shit, I should have just shot them. And that's the problem, innit? They just they didn't take them out when they were there for taking.
Yeah.
Raiders are often their bogey team as well, so they put that to bed nicely.
Yeah, and the defense has turned up.
Really has.
I think we've been saying it every week. They've been getting better and better and better.
Ever since Sorensen has started playing to the top of his ability, this defence has looked really good. Because at one point he was dropped from the starting lineup, Daniel Sorensen. He's been
rightly so.
brilliant.
He had 2 or 3 games where he was
shocking. He could not play the game.
They are now the biggest threat to the Patriots being the number 1 seed out of the AFC as well. They're level, aren't they?
Yeah. I think the Chiefs will overhaul. I think I don't know how you stop them now. I think there's a lot of better teams than them in the NFC. But in the AFC, if they're playing at this level and they're still moving forward...
Kelsey's been quiet the last 3 or 4 weeks, though.
Yep.
He has been quiet.
3 receptions, 27 yards, Yeah.
You can't do it every week, I get. But that would be interesting to see how they get him back involved, because Tyreek Hill turned up this week.
Yeah.
And Edwards-Hilaire's done well since he came back from injury as well, actually.
10 carries, 37 yards with 2 touchdowns. Yeah. And randomly, I watched this game partly with my stepdad, who knows nothing about this game. But he was impressed by how a man as small as Clyde Edwards-Hilaire could score, and then rightly pointed out that, if those massive guys in front just block a hole, he just slides sideways through, and he does every time. He turns through. I think it's not good for longevity of a career to be that small as a running back. But it's working because the O-line suddenly is able to build these holes for him. And he was there.
So what's he been back, 4 or 5 games? It does coincide with that offense just functioning better, doesn't it?
I still don't think...
He's not stellar.
No. But I don't think they have a franchise running back on their squad.
He's not elite.
But he's way better than Derek Gore. Right?
I said he's not elite yet.
But, we'll come to talk about it. You need balance on offense.
Should we talk about the fact that Josh Gordon scored a touchdown for the first time in 2 years? 1 yard receiving touchdown.
I'm not sure we should give him any airtime.
No,
It'll
but
just be filled
like I said
with
to John,
marijuana smoke.
like I said to John, imagine if you're like looking at your bench and you're like, we need someone to stick on in the red zone. Oh yeah, that fella who used to be absolutely elite and busting it out for everybody. Just chuck him on. Like you forgot he was there. He's done nothing all season, but that'll do. Well, and you know he's the sort of player that in the playoffs they're just going to chuck him out there and he's going to score. It's like, okay.
They got a huge game on Thursday night against the Chargers, isn't it? Which I think pretty much decides the division. I mean,
it's a huge game.
If
but
Chiefs win, then I think that's done and dusted for the AFC West.
Yeah.
I think a lot as well can depend on how Eckler comes up in a short week. Because if the Chargers don't have a running game, I think the Chiefs' defense can just smother. But yeah, we'll see. Anyway, let's take a break and we'll come back with the rest of the games in a moment. So welcome back. So we'll start with the Chargers, who cruised to a 37-21 win.
That's not what I wrote.
I know.
Don't you love the way, right? He takes your script that you've written lovingly and then he tries to change it around and then just stumbles over the words. Read it how it is, John. Read it how it is.
He did it on purpose because he didn't want to highlight the Giants' loss.
Read it how it is, John.
The Giants cruised to a 37-21 loss.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They did cruise.
He basically spun it to sound like he wanted it to sound.
Let's talk about the Giants, John. Let's talk about the Giants because you were there. You and I watched some of this game.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we said about the Giants.
They're shit.
They are shit.
They're a good. There's a decent core of player marred by the fact that the first choice quarterback is rubbish, and then the second choice quarterback is a very different type of quarterback who's also rubbish. And I mean, Glennon is a middling.
He's a middle of the road backup who's only won 6 games in a career of 30 starts.
Exactly.
Which tells you all you need to know. He actually threw the ball quite well. We said, and it helps that he's throwing to talented players. Saquon Barkley looks good in fits and starts. We've said that all season when he's been fit. I have no idea about Joe Judge. I couldn't tell you whether he's any good or not.
We don't know.
I really don't know.
I think this Giants team, and I've talked about it a couple of times. I think sometimes people big up the wide receiving core a little bit better than they should. Who's got a Giants wide receiver on their fantasy team?
No, because of the quarterback.
Nobody. And you can say because of the quarterback, but,
But on any other team, I would have them.
I mean, apart from Saquon, there is nobody from that offense that you would be confident in. I'm sorry.
True.
I think the defense is good and is improving. And it reminds me a bit of where Washington were a couple of years ago, where you could see green shoots in the defense, but you couldn't see a lot else. And I think that's where the Giants are. And it's not good. It's not been good for a while. And, I know they've got some draft capital coming up, which, they need to use wisely, another 2 years down the road, and they could be better. But
if you drop a Russell Wilson into that team, does it become a playoff team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of the division.
Only because it's in a terrible division.
Yeah.
And that is the only reason.
But still, it would be a massive improvement.
And I think because there's 7 teams that get in, you could say that for a lot of teams now. I don't think it makes the Giants suddenly a good team.
No, but I think it makes them a much better team than what they are. I think there are a lot of parts on that team that are good. I think I think the defensive line is good. I think the offensive line is improving. I really like their defensive backfield. I'd give anything to have those 4 players in San Francisco. And yeah, I think you're right. I don't think the wide receivers are brilliant, but there are teams with worse wide receiver cores.
Yeah, the Jags.
Yeah, well,
the Patriots,
Jets.
You talk about teams that are already worse than the Giants.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like
Panthers.
I don't think they're a million.
Panthers are better than us. And I'd rather have.
I'd rather have DJ Moore than any of your wide receivers.
I don't know about that.
I think you're over-egging DJ Moore as anything other than an average.
I think DJ Moore is really underrated.
I think DJ Moore's had a really good season.
Yeah.
I think he's had a good season.
Always has a good season with pretty poor quarterback play.
But without looking at the 2 seasons before the year started, I'd have taken Kenny Golladay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on talent alone, but again, he never performs for a whole season.
No, that's very true.
Well, there's a reason for that because he's injured, and this year the guy under centre isn't throwing to him because he's shit. we're spending far too much time having the same argument every week about the Giants.
What this makes me think of?
It reminds me of how we talk about the Lions. No one gives a shit. They're a crap team.
We can move on from the Giants.
I think it's because we've got Giants fans, so we always talk it through, don't we?
Let's talk about quickly. It'll come up later, I know, at some point. But DeAndre Hopkins made 10 different terrible quarterbacks on the Texans look really, really good.
True.
And that's the difference between a great receiver and a bunch of good receivers. None of these players can elevate Glennon or Jones. That's not going to happen. They're not there. Whereas Nuke was elevating TJ Yates and Brian Hoyer,
Brock
Osweiler, the other fella that got sacked after he didn't get on the plane, Ryan Mallett. That's the difference. So, yes, none of those wide receivers are that good, but they're good.
But there's a reason Hopkins earns $25 million as he isn't, because he is in the top 5% of the league.
Yeah.
You don't get many Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Justin Jeffersons,
Yeah, look, Golladay, when you look at his career stats, had the potential to go on and be a great wide receiver. Then he got injured, didn't he? So he had 2,000-yard seasons in a row, and he got 11 touchdowns in the second of those. He then got injured and had 300 yards. And this year, so far, he's got 400 yards.
You can't judge the last years in Detroit as well, because it wasn't Stafford throwing at him. It was it was David Blount. And
my point is, he has potential if he can be fit.
But if he can be fit and he has a bloke throwing to him, and he doesn't have that.
Speaking of blokes that can throw, Justin Herbert,
let's talk about
60-yard bomb to Jalen Guyton, which was probably one of the best touchdown passes I've ever seen.
It was incredible.
It was amazing.
Really was a stunning pass.
I've said it on other weeks. We are going to be treated over the next few years to watching Burrow, Herbert, Kyler,
Mahomes.
Trey
Lance,
Lawrence,
Trevor
if
Lawrence.
he gets a coach.
Lawrence on a different team.
Yeah. Or a different coach.
We're probably going to be astounded by Mac Jones, even if it's not the same, because he's just going to win because of the team he's on. Like, there's going to be 8 or 10 of these quarterbacks. And we were treated a few years ago when we had the Mannings, even if one of them was Eli, Brady, Big Ben, Phillip Rivers,
Drew
Brees. You had all these
Matt
players.
Ryan.
Yeah, there was like a
Alex
generation
Smith.
of
Palmer.
really... Yeah,
Alex
Palmer.
Smith.
Alex Smith won a lot of games.
Okay,
Yeah. And so Tony Romo is the other one I was thinking of. You had 10 or 12, and then the rest of the league revolved around. Well, you're going to get the same with this group, and the rest of the league is going to shuffle round. And we should just be embracing this, because Herbert, yes, he has the odd, ridiculous bad
He's still
throw,
young.
but oh my word, some of the stuff he can do is incredible. And
what he can do just makes him stand apart from a lot of other quarterbacks his age. Like, it wasn't just a drop back in the pocket and launch it. He had to move away from a defender, reset himself, and then just I think it went 63 yards or something like that. I think it's the second longest touchdown throw this year.
Under pressure as well, because we got hit as it went.
His arm is ridiculous.
It's incredible.
It's phenomenal. Like,
even when he has bad games, he had bad games against, he had a bad game against the Ravens. And the Ravens' defense, when they want to, are a great defense when they have players. They had players back then. I think, I think Griff's got it right. I think we're going to be treated for the next few years. I mean, these are the next dynasty of players, isn't it?
Yes.
This is the, and it's exciting.
by the way, we left Aaron Rodgers off that list.
Sorry, Aaron. We know you're listening.
But
Still, though, the Chargers are 8-5, right? And we've said it already. They're going to be in a shootout with the Chiefs for winning that division now.
They're a game behind, aren't they?
Yeah, they're a game behind. The Broncos are another game behind, and then the Raiders, we know now, are not contenders. Just make pencil that in. But the only thing left for me to see is beat the Chiefs. Beat a really good
they
team.
have beaten them once this year.
But I mean, consistently beat the top 3 or 4 teams, because the Chargers do have a habit of charging it up.
Yes, still.
They're inconsistent, aren't they? That's the thing. They've got a young quarterback who will be inconsistent. They've got a new head coach who may make some naive decisions at times. He's got a fresh way of playing with that team, You know, they seem much more offensive, and you know, Keenan Allen just looks amazing every year and every week.
He wasn't there this week.
But that's what I mean. Yeah. But they've even got other players involved, haven't they? But they look a very solid team, both sides of the ball, don't they? Even if they're missing players, they're in games. They don't get blown out very often, that Chargers team.
And a bit of a theme to start off with in terms of certain players not winning certain awards. Rashawn Slater has been awesome at left tackle, and he won't win Offensive Rookie of the Year because no one on offensive line.
I mixed up my Bosas when I was talking to you the other day, but Nick Bosa doing his
Joey
Bosa.
You did it again.
Yeah, there you go. Again, very tired. But the teabag dance, which the refs can't flag because they don't know what it is one of the best celebrations. He just walked away from the refs and then did a teabagging dance, and even did the laying down prone teabagging dance. And he can't get flagged for taunting because they don't know what it is. I think it's amazing. If he does it over a player that he's just laid out, that would be...
Not sure he'll get away with it.
No, you'd definitely get flagged, but my word, what a celebration.
I mean, yeah. Keenan Allen could be back.
He is back. He's been activated.
He's been activated
about half an hour ago.
Oh, there you go. Well, there you go. He'll be back for the Chiefs game, which could be useful. So the battle at the top of the NFC East continued in Washington, where the Cowboys withheld a comeback by the football team to prevail 27-20. The Cowboys gave up a 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, despite Taylor Heineke going off injured. This is a good Cowboys team on paper, and they should win the NFC East, but how confident are we about their chances of going on in the playoffs?
Not confident.
I'm just not.
I'm not confident.
Their record
it's Mike
is
McCarthy.
Good, and I know all their players are good.
They're the opposite to the Chiefs. They're rounding out of form.
Yeah, I just think they're inconsistent. Like Dak hasn't been the same since he's come back from the injury he had a couple of weeks back.
Is he weighed down by his massive wallet now?
I don't know what's weighing him down, but it's not so 22 of 39, whilst not amazing, is okay. But he's not going downfield. He's got three of the best receivers in the league, and he's not looking downfield.
Based on how Washington played in this game, the Cowboys should have absolutely wiped the floor with them. Because they weren't good on defense, they weren't good on offense, and the Cowboys have got such a better team than them. Like they could have put 50 or 60 points up, and
I do think one of Dak's favourite weapons this season has been Tony Pollard, the sort of 5 to 10 yard dump off and then watch Tony Pollard go. And it was notable that he wasn't there and it wasn't the same. Zeke doesn't look anywhere near as explosive as Pollard. He just doesn't. And I think once Pollard is out and there's no one to share that role with, then Dak then gets a bit exposed because he is a bit more limited than he has been the last couple of years. Well, not last year. It was very limited last year, but the year before when actually he was playing very well. So he's not at his peak Dakness, if you like. And then the backfield isn't at its best. So even if the wide receivers are open, he's not picking them out.
I'm not an expert, but like
what
I know, despite what my CV claims, timing is like Dak's timing just seems for the last few weeks has just seemed really off. Like him and like Zeke isn't explosive, but Dak and Zeke used to be a great combo, and they seem like
both of them are off.
They seem like they've only met 2 days ago.
Do you know how much? I mean, the way Zeke's contract's looking the way Zeke's contract is organised is pretty random. He's going to be a cap hit of 6.8 million this year. I'll take a guess what his cap hit is next year.
14 million.
18.2 million.
Wow. Had to be to make the average. Had to be pretty high.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there was, we see loads of games with garbage time points. Yeah, we do have to remember that. Yeah, they could just take the foot off the gas in this game, and they won. Yeah, and they're 9-4.
This wasn't garbage time points. This really wasn't. It was a proper comeback from nowhere.
With Kyle Allen.
With Kyle Allen, who only actually completed 4 passes, but for 53 yards.
That's not on Zeke or Dak.
No, it's not. But they couldn't respond.
And all I would say as well is Amari Cooper looked really good.
Yeah, he did.
He looked really good.
All the receivers did. Gallup's been really good for the last few weeks again, which really elevates that core. But they couldn't respond. Once the football team started to score points, the Cowboys went to sleep.
But they won.
They did.
You know, and that's just me being devil's advocate. You know, they won, and it became a one-score game. We see that loads of times. I think it's the NFC top 5 teams, top 6 teams is very difficult. You know, are they as good as those? You know, we talked a bit about it earlier. You know, potentially there's some better teams in the NFC. You know, I haven't picked the Cowboys to get to the Super Bowl this year. I don't think they will get to the Super Bowl. But if all their players turn up and are fit at the end of the season, then they have got a chance.
Cardinals, Rams, Packers and Bucs are all better than the Cowboys right now.
That is correct.
Yes.
If you play like that in the playoffs, you get decimated.
I think you're right.
This isn't because this isn't even a good Washington team. You know, it's
you don't need to play playoff football against Washington.
The thing is, the Cowboys' defense has been mostly very good, but when it's been bad this season, it's been bad. And a couple of the plays that Washington got out of nowhere to Sims. So he had 3 receptions, but for 69 yards.
What a catch, though.
It was a great catch and a great touchdown. His elbow came down inbounds before he went out of bounds, and you were wrong. You need to get your eyesight checked, old man.
It's just for the font size on this.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I did tell him we'd be fine with our younger eyes before you got here.
So another game, another near comeback. The Josh Allen-led Bills came from 24-3 down at halftime to 27-27, only to lose to a Tom Brady touchdown pass to journeyman wide receiver Brashard Perryman.
His only reception in the whole game. Brashard Perryman.
It's probably his only reception all year, isn't it?
Both quarterbacks displayed their prowess to run the ball, but unfortunately for the Bills, that's all they have in the running game, where the Bucs have Fournette playing at...
Was it 1974, the last time a team didn't hand off in the first half to a running back?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We said it last week, didn't we? We said it all season. And we even said it
They're
earlier
getting
today
exposed.
with the Chiefs. You've got to have balance in the offense. And
Yeah.
at least, I think the biggest difference the Bills made, there were some designed runs for Josh Allen. And I think that helped create some...
He had 109 yards.
Yeah.
I don't think you want him running for 109
really
yards
don't.
because he is your offense. And if he gets injured, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Your backup is Mitch Trubisky. It's not going to be the same.
John, now I'm not trying to start arguing with you.
Fight!
Looked like you were.
No, actually, I'm not. I do try and wind him up sometimes.
Stop mouthing the C word at him. What's going on there?
But obviously, there was a couple of people I think that picked the Bills for the Super Bowl.
Well,
and I know you did.
I went for winning.
I think I did as well.
And I suppose what I'd want to know is, what are you disappointed about from this Bills team that you thought you saw at the start of the season that you're not seeing? Because obviously the Patriots have been better than we thought they would be, but that doesn't explain why the Bills have not got to the heights you thought they would.
I thought Devin Singletary had the potential to, he's not going to be a league-leading running back, but I thought he could ease the pressure on Josh Allen, and it's just not happened at all. I mean, he's non-existent effectively as a player.
I thought they'd have enough in the run game for it to be serviceable,
Yeah.
I think is probably the word I'm looking for. And it just hasn't been. And I think Josh Allen is a fantastic player, but you can't do it all.
I think he's been let down by the other players around him.
For me, I think that I agree with the running back situation is causing pressure, but Josh Allen has also thrown badly timed interceptions this season. And that he's got 28 touchdowns, which is great. He's got 11 interceptions.
But I don't... Yes, you're absolutely right. We can't deny that. But I think that's because he's been having to throw the ball like 54 times in this game.
Yeah, it's mad.
Well, I was going to ask, because it's interesting listening to all those things. And I wonder if it's just pressure. Because
Could be.
that team have gone from no expectations to a lot of people calling for them to win the Super Bowl.
That's fair.
But whilst I think that's true, do you not think I think it's expectation on Sean McDermott rather than the players.
Well,
I think McDermott doesn't handle it well.
I don't know, the whole franchise isn't handling it well, quite clearly. And I think, are they just trying to put too much pressure on themselves? Is it that the running game is putting too much pressure on the likes of Diggs and Sanders? Because, that looks like, and Colt Beasley, that looks like a great receiver corps, but they're not exactly pulling up trees this year, are they?
No.
Their offense hasn't put up, huge numbers a lot of the time. And, it's just an interesting one for me. I'm not even, like I say, I wasn't even trying to start an argument. I thought it's actually quite an interesting thing because they've not had a lot of injuries. Everyone's been really hot on them since the start of the season.
Just not
and
balanced.
they are way back.
Yeah, they lack consistency. I mean, even in this game, they scored 3 points in the first half and then 20 points in the second half. And okay, I know the Bucs did something similar, but it's been like week to week. You've never felt like apart from when they first started out. Once they lost to the Steelers first, and you that was all right, first game. But every week it's like I'm not sure. And like the loss to the Jags.
Yeah.
I
think at that point you've got to say there's something fundamentally wrong.
It wasn't
there.
just the fact they lost. They lost while scoring 6 points.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Yeah,
if they had lost and it had been like a 30-27 like this or whatever, you'd say, oh, well, bad day. But that's a tragically bad day.
Because on their best day, the Bills are still...
Yeah, they are.
They are still a
I
contender.
said to John, and I know this is one of these things that comes back to haunt you later, but I said, if I've got to pick a team this week to support while the Pats are not playing, I'm picking the Bucs because if they beat the Bills, the Patriots will win the division. Because we're now 2 games up.
Yeah. I think,
and we're playing them again.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all right, I actually think the Colts next week for us is a tougher test than the Bills.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
probably
so,
agree.
yeah.
And I never, at the start of the season, thought I'd be saying that.
I know we're going to do power rankings, but are the Colts above the Bills now, John?
I had them there or thereabouts the same, I think.
They are almost touching distance.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, I think that I'll look at mine and
Let's,
not far apart anyway.
Let's talk about
But yeah.
King Tom before we move on.
Briefly.
Briefly, 31 of 46, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. That's fine. But it's the 16 rushing yards on 7 carries.
For a touchdown?
That really pissed off Bruce Arians. When he made
he won't be doing that again.
It'd be funny. He looked really quick at one point. There was one run, not the touchdown run.
Earlier when he picked up 11 yards or whatever.
Yeah.
But did you not think it's because defensive players just think, we don't have to hit him? Yeah, they don't go after him. And Arians was like, that's enough of that shit. Don't do that. Basically, it was pretty funny. It was not.
I'll tell you what, for all you Brady haters out there, and I am one of those, best thing I've ever done to enjoy something of Tom Brady is to put him in my fantasy team, because at least it makes me happy in some way, small way.
This game summed up one of the things that makes Tom Brady, which is he can take motivation from anything. And he looked at this and went, oh yeah, I hate the Bills. It means nothing. They're not even in the same conference anymore. And he went, oh yeah, I hate them. I owned them like Rodgers owned the Bears. He has 2 of the longest win streaks in history, and they're both against the Bills. It's madness. It's insane.
Yeah, now,
Gronk, by the way, looks excellent again. 5 receptions, 62 yards. He just looks absolutely
Playoff
unbeatable.
ready.
Yeah, playoff ready.
Yeah.
He's just a monster. He can't run. He's so slow, but it doesn't matter. He just beats people in the air.
He
And
blocks well as well.
he does. And, coming back from the injury means he's nice and fresh. It's...
He's no George Kittle.
Yeah. Although, for the Bills, Knox being back,
Dawson Knox is a good player for them.
It does seem to be there's a correlation between the Bills' drop-off and Dawson Knox going off on injured. But hopefully, for my fantasy team, at least some points coming for that later in the year. So the Falcons overcame the Panthers 29-21. Who cares?
Have we reached the dross end of the
Do you know what?
podcast?
The funniest thing about this is in his last 11 starts for the Panthers across 2 stints, he is now 0-11.
Yep.
Yeah.
0-11.
Yeah, because he didn't
Just sack him.
He didn't start the one game they won, did he?
Why are people still paying this bloke money? What's wrong with people?
I think it was worth a gamble.
Was it? Really?
Yeah,
There
I think it was.
What, versus Trubisky or someone? There must be someone else.
When they brought in Cam Newton, Trubisky wasn't on the market. So I think it is worth a gamble at that point. But now it's just like, well,
the problem
he's
isn't
done.
The problem isn't Cam Newton. The problem is they picked Darnold and it didn't work.
Yeah.
Now they're just scrabbling around to find something to keep him relevant, and it hasn't worked.
Cam Newton is not good.
Agreed. He cannot pass anymore. He is a runner still, but he cannot pass anymore. His accuracy is awful. And he's so slow to pick a receiver, and then he locks onto him. He looks like a rookie. That is what he looks like. He looks like a rookie. It's not working. He won't be there next year, but I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not convinced Matt Rule is there next year.
I was about to say, Matt Rule, this is his second year of a 6-year contract.
But David Tepper doesn't care. Money is nothing to him. He will just bin him off.
I appreciate it, but Tepper also comes from like that he at one point owned part of the Steelers, and we mentioned it before. The Steelers don't sack their coaches. Matt Rule, this year it's been a downward trend. But he started off so well last year.
But they haven't gone anywhere. They haven't progressed. They've regressed in 2 years. They've sacked Joe Brady, who was being touted as another great coaching prospect.
He was one of the favourites to get a head coaching job.
Things look a bit out of hand. And whilst you're right, it comes from the background of we don't sack our coaches, that is built on success. The Steelers have got away with that because they're successful.
Yeah.
The Panthers are not successful. They aren't. They're not. They're a middling franchise, really.
1 year.
Yeah,
most annoying thing about this is it's the only game I got wrong in our predictor league. I nearly got a perfect week. That's all that matters.
Patson is always the thing that makes the Falcons tick. He did fine again. Somebody said to me, did I hear one of you mention Calvin Ridley earlier? Is he coming back?
No,
he's not. Okay, fine. Because that's what they're missing. They need his threat on the field, and then they're 6 and 7. They are with. Are they the 7th seed at the moment?
Yeah, I think they are.
I think they're they're basically tussling. The last playoff place in the NFC is going to be a bad team.
Oh, it's going to be an awful team.
It's going to be a bad team.
Falcons running isn't terrible. Even though it's 49ers, Lions,
no, they're not. They're
Bills,
not in the playoffs.
Saints.
Are they not?
No, it's the football team still.
Oh, okay. It's going to be a bad
That's
team.
a better team.
But they've got the same record, haven't
At
they?
6 and 7 in the NFC are the football team, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Saints. Yeah. All on the same records.
Yeah. So it's there or thereabouts. And the Panthers are another game further back, but their season's washed. It's done.
So another NFC South team, another series of question marks about the quarterback position as Taysom Hill led the Saints to a 30-9 win over the hapless Jets. Both quarterbacks were distinctly average, with the quality receiver lacking some je ne sais quoi. The high point for the Saints will be the return of Alvin Kamara to the starting lineup just in time for the fantasy playoffs, which realistically is the only hope of Kamara getting some game time in the postseason.
The quarterbacks were disappointing.
Yeah.
But here's the difference. Taysom Hill, 15 of 21. Zach Wilson, 19 of 42. What are they doing? How is...
No Michael Carter.
I don't care. 19 of 42.
I know.
All this does is lend more weight to the fact that Zach Wilson should have been sat for the year behind Flacco.
It is kind of
Flacco wasn't even there at the start of the year.
But whoever.
It is kind of a miracle that he didn't throw an interception.
Yeah.
He didn't throw a touchdown either.
Yeah. But he very rarely doesn't throw an interception.
Yeah, exactly.
But 19 of 42.
That's literally the only positive I can make from that.
I feel like John could put that up with his little arms. 19 of 42. That's the sort of stats I'd expect out of you.
Like, look at the receivers he's throwing to. Braxton Berrios, Ty Johnson, DJ Montgomery. I don't even know who that is.
Ryan Griffin. Keenan Cole.
Yeah.
Remember him? He was good once. Jamison Crowder.
He was good once
Crowder.
as well.
Crowder. Hello, Paul. Paul's not listening at this point.
Vincent Smith, which they've somehow spelt Vincent wrong.
And Denzel Mims.
Got Denzel Mims. Yeah.
I assume it's Denzel Mims.
Yeah, one target for no receptions.
I think I went big on him in a
draft. No one should ever go big on Denzel Mims.
No one should ever go big on a Jets wide receiver.
Well, because I didn't go into the... I'm thinking I can go to the Vikings to replace Stephon Diggs.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, that's enough. I mean, I don't even know what to make of the Saints. I don't think this sparked any sort of comeback. They were just playing the Jets, basically.
Just like
they were playing the Jets. I don't see anything.
Move on.
You've got Alvin Kamara back. It makes you competitive every week. But the only reason they won is because they were playing the Jets.
Yep. Yeah. The Seahawks beat the Texans because everyone except the Jags and the Texans and the Titans even beat the Texans 33-13 the final score. In a game which was probably more one-sided than even the scoreline suggests. The Texans are back to Davis Mills,
who actually started 14 for 14 or 15 for 15. He was fine. 33 of 49 now. If Zach Wilson was putting up that sort of numbers, I'd be saying, yeah, fair enough. But he's not. And you can't tell me Davis Mills is thrown to better players.
But 49 attempts.
49 attempts is insane. But again, they don't have a running game. But Davis Mills, to me, we shouldn't forget, is a rookie, has way outperformed Zach Wilson this season.
I think when you think about the draft and you think about the quarterbacks coming into the draft or lack of them, stick with Davis Mills and go defense.
I have no problem with that decision. If that's what they do, I think you can win games with Davis Mills. I don't think he's not terrible. He's way outperformed a couple of the rookies. I don't know what his stats are compared to Trevor Lawrence, but I bet it's not that much different.
I bet it's not either. I think he's earned a chance for a second year.
I think Trevor Lawrence's stats, if you're going on stats alone rather than actually watching any film, probably not great.
No, they're probably not great. No,
even worse after this week.
Rashard Penny actually had a game for the Seahawks 4 years after getting drafted in the first round.
Yep.
Is it 4
years?
Yeah, I think he's in his 4th year now.
2 wins on the bounce for the Seahawks. Although, everyone's seemingly got an opinion about Russell Wilson's future. And Tyler Lockett had a game, but of course, it was against the Texans, so it doesn't count.
He's still had 4,000 yard seasons in a row or something now.
Yeah, he's class.
He is quality.
And although DK Metcalf still seems a little distracted. So finally, the Jags lost to the Titans because
Trevor Lawrence threw
Urban
4
Meyer.
interceptions.
Yeah,
they lost 20-0 against a team, the Titans, who are still decimated.
There's so much to talk about in this game. Before we get into it, Davis Mills, 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in 6 or 7 starts. I didn't actually work it out properly. But Trevor Lawrence, 9 touchdowns, hasn't thrown 2 touchdowns in a game since week 1 and 14 interceptions. Davis Mills is outplaying him. I'm just saying.
My mum's outplaying him.
I'm not saying it's Trevor Lawrence's fault, but it's true.
You can't argue stats, but I would say David Culley is out-coaching Urban Meyer.
Well, that's not hard. We're out-coaching Urban Meyer. The guy is a joke. Shad Khan has said, I won't be hasty. Well, he's wrong. He should be hasty. Urban Meyer should be fired today.
He should have been fired 5 weeks ago when he had that goal.
Someone asked him a question, didn't they, about a player on defence.
Yeah.
He's been getting a bit more time. He didn't play a single snap.
He didn't play a single snap.
He has
no idea.
I think the media are out to trip him over, but he's so easy to trip over.
Yeah.
He does himself no favours, both apparently on the coaching field, in the meeting rooms, or on game time. I think he's petulant. Mike Vrabel worked with him for 2 years at Ohio State, and the handshake at the end of the game.
He never looked at Mike Vrabel. Apparently, Mike Vrabel pinned him up against a wall when they were working together.
He's a big lad as well, isn't he?
He never even acknowledged him. He just shook his hand and kept walking. He never stopped. He never broke stride. No. It's disrespectful. You've been beaten and beaten badly. Just take it on the chin. You should be used to it by now. You've been coaching them all season.
I don't see how the Jags can possibly keep him.
We all saw the thing. I don't know whether Gary saw because I wasn't talking to him about it, but we saw the article about Marvin Jones, who basically stormed out of practice a couple of weeks ago, was in his car and had to be talked to go back into the facility. Marvin Jones has a reputation in the league of being one of those proper ultimate professionals, turns up early, works all day, happy to work with the rookies to help them, stays late, does all the film study, goes above and beyond. He has been a brilliant wide receiver 2 in this league on some terrible teams, admittedly, but he's been a red zone threat for 7 or 8 years now for the Bengals, the Lions, and the Jags, and he can't stand the guy. That tells you there's a problem.
I know we bang on about it, but you've got a rookie quarterback. He's thrown 3 interceptions, and I know you're 20-0 down, but run the ball.
So James Robinson
6 attempts
for 4 yards.
He was on 61% of the snaps, James Robinson.
Yeah, and they didn't call his number
6 times.
I thought he wanted to run for 200 yards and throw for 200 yards, or and then special teams for 200 yards, or whatever his master plan was. But I think I get all that. But Lawrence is not doing himself any favours with some of the balls he's throwing. The balls, they look beautiful when he throws it. So much pace on them.
But to the wrong team.
Unbelievable. But
they look amazing.
Is he colourblind?
I don't know. I really,
some of it is on the player. You can't.
No, I don't think anything is.
Of course it is.
I really don't.
No. Come on. He still goes.
I agree, Jim. I'm afraid
through his progressions.
I'm not convinced.
Doesn't he? He can still throw it away. Doesn't have to throw it to the other team every time.
He wants to play hero ball because he's used to winning.
Yeah.
And he needs to get out of that mindset and throw 2 interceptions in this game and then look after the ball.
Right, so isn't that a job of the coach then to sit down a rookie quarterback and
absolutely.
Go, stop fucking doing that?
Yes, absolutely.
We're going to run the ball.
But you also have to look after yourself a bit too.
Exactly. He still has to go through his progressions, doesn't he, and decide. He'll have more than one option when he's at centre. He won't just be told, you must throw it there. No matter what happens, throw it there.
When you're dividing blame up, it's 80-20 on Urban Meyer. Yeah. There's no doubt. I mean, no one's saying it's not. But Trevor Lawrence right now is closer to Jamarcus Russell than he is to Andrew Luck, which is what you were telling me he was going to be.
He did come in hyped as like the
it did. And
I know he's on the Jags, but he still came in hyped as literally the best quarterback that's ever been born.
Well, no.
Pretty much.
Well, he came in as a generational talent, one of the best quarterbacks in the last 10 years.
I feel for him because he keeps getting his stats compared to Peyton because of Peyton's. It's only because I kept hearing he's the best quarterback since Peyton Manning, and so
we've said it before. Peyton 28 interceptions, but he threw 26 touchdowns that season.
It's
Trevor Lawrence, it just doesn't. He doesn't look like he could throw it. He doesn't look like he could buy a touchdown right now.
I think we've bullied Jim off this one a little bit.
No. Jim was right because Jim watches more college than the rest of us does. And in college, he was absolutely brilliant.
Phenomenal.
His timing was perfect. He never got flustered. He's on a terrible team, which doesn't help. But as a generational talent, you have to be able to acknowledge that in yourself and say, right, I'm just going to take the sack. I'm not going to try and throw it randomly down the field and hope one of my team gets it. And he's not learnt that.
He's got to start controlling what he can control.
Yeah.
And he can throw the ball away rather than to the opposition.
I think that's fair. But I just...
He will be better with a different coach.
Yeah. I don't think you can grade... I don't think you can take anything away from this season.
I'm not saying he's a bust or anything like that. Nothing crazy like that, obviously. I'm just saying, I think he needs to also look at himself.
I agree.
You hear sportsmen say it all the time, can't you? You can't say it's all on the coach.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
The Titans are 9-4. Don't forget they were in this game. The Titans are 9-4.
In a shit division.
Yes, in a bad division, but they're secure in the playoffs. They're going to be in there.
They play 6 games in that division.
Yeah. But they're going to be in there. They're quite likely to get Derrick Henry back for the playoffs.
He is going to be back, they've said.
And then all of a sudden, you have the Titans back again. So all they've got to do is make it into the playoffs. And
they've still got a game against the Texans to go.
Yeah.
They're in the playoffs, aren't they?
They are more or less in the
they're
playoffs.
limping in, but
they might not win the division. The Colts could still beat them, but it's unlikely.
Yeah, and Donta Foreman's done okay as well.
And Dontrell Hillard.
Yeah. And but that's good though. I think that Donta Foreman's come in and done okay.
Well, yeah, he's picked up some.
For when Henry comes back, for managing that workload,
they can help spell Henry.
Paul's not here, and that makes me sad. But I should point out that 3 touchdowns in a game. Jeff Swaim had the most yards for the Titans with 45 on 3 receptions. So 3 receptions in a game. Jeff Swaim.
Oh, nice.
There you go, Paul. Just for you.
But yeah. Well, let's. Should we move on to the power rankings because it's 4 weeks to the end of the season, so we've got our selections. We haven't got any from Paul. So,
he's a lazy git.
So
that text went out to him at some ridiculous time earlier today. I take it back. You can shove Jeff Swaim up your a-hole.
And this is the first. I was saying to these guys, it's the first time we've ever had a consensus pick. Everybody has picked one team for a position.
Is it last?
Happened.
Is it
It's
last?
not last.
Is it first?
No.
Oh, Christ. Somewhere in the middle.
7th.
Yeah.
Everyone's picked Dallas Cowboys at 7.
Me and Jim guessed the Texans.
I assumed it'd be Texans. Yeah.
No, because I have the Jags last. Because
okay.
I
hate Urban Meyer.
No, you do hate Urban. We do hate
Urban Meyer, but I still think the Texans might score 7 points in a game. Maybe 6 points, but whatever. I just don't see where the Jags are going to score anything.
I just love the idea of John turning up in a Davis Mills jersey at some point because he likes a random team top. He's currently wearing his Florida Gators top, and I quite like the idea of you turning up in a Davis Mills jersey.
Paul did buy me a Josh Rosen Dolphin shirt one year.
Brilliant.
I'll have that if you're not wearing it.
You can.
Thanks.
And a Le'Veon Bell Jets shirt.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Paul he enables my
randomness.
Shitness. So, who wants to guess who's first? Two people picked them at number
Bucks.
1. It was the Bucks.
I picked them at 1.
The two G's, OGs over here. Jim has them at 3. I have them at 2. Both me and Jim had the Packers at number 1. But Gary had them at 4 because he's a fucking idiot.
I think I made my case earlier.
It's a fair point.
I have the Rams
I
and
have two.
I have the Rams and the Cardinals above the Packers because I think they're more balanced teams.
I think you look at the top 5, maybe 6.
I had the Titans quite high, didn't I? But
yeah.
because they're in a bad division and they're well set in the playoffs. I have them 5th.
In the top 4 of our power rankings, is it the 4 NFC teams?
So, Bucks, Packers, Cardinals, Rams.
I had those 4 in
5th.
my top 4.
Yep.
5th, we now move on to the AFC. We have the Pats and the Chiefs. We have very much 7th, the Dallas Cowboys. Then the Bills, Tetons, Colts, Ravens, Chargers, Bengals, 49ers.
I'm guessing I had the Ravens lowest then, because I dropped them.
You had them at 16.
Well, I had them at 9.
I had them at 9 as
I had them at 9. I had them at 12.
I did that because I'm not sure Lamar is going to come back fit.
Yeah.
Did I have the Niners highest after all my Shanahan bashing?
No.
Oh, God.
You had them joint highest because Griff also had them at 11.
Oh.
They're on the ascendancy.
That is the reason why I put them there. I think they've played and Kittle back like that makes such a
they're
difference.
in the ascendancy. It's good. They're coming into form at the right time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I bizarrely, they are literally on an average. They've got they're at 12.75, and the Bengals, who they narrowly beat this week, are 12.5. So that's, I think we mentioned that earlier. I said they're really close. Yeah, then at 15, Browns, then the Broncos, Vikings, Dolphins, Steelers, football team in 20th. At the bottom, everyone went the Texans, apart from me. Jacksonville, 31st, because I put them bottom. Jets, so then the Lions, Giants, Bears, Panthers, Seahawks, Raiders, Falcons, Saints at 22nd, and Eagles at 21st. And anyone want to guess the highest gainers since week 8?
Chiefs.
Patriots.
Niners must have been quite a big game.
Niners.
Oh.
Well, they had a terrible start, didn't they? They were
really
like,
bad, yeah.
what,
good start.
1-4 or something ridiculous.
No, we were 2-0 at one point.
Must have been 2-3 then.
And then we went. Yeah, then it all went to shit.
Other gainers, pretty high as well. Football team who have gained to get to 20th position.
I had the football team at 18th, to be fair.
And as well the Pats, who have gained like 11.
Are the Raiders fallen the furthest?
Yeah, I would have.
The Raiders have got to be one of the
must be.
furthest fallers, yeah, surely.
Yes, quite significantly.
Yeah.
They were in the top 10, weren't they, back then?
Yeah. And the team that's given us the most difference is the Tetons. Oh, and the Dolphins, because Jim's got them at 14th, Gary's got them at 23rd. I guess I think we've all mentioned it. Once you get past the top 6, it's
that whole group of like 7 and 6 through to like 6 and 7 teams.
Yeah, well, I think
Nothing between them.
I probably went a little bit high on the Titans, but I think I saw Derrick Henry was coming back, and they've got the Texans to play, and I thought, well, they're going to be in having won their division, so I had them
I
high.
had them at 10th because I think Derrick Henry's coming back. They've probably been through their roughest part of the season, and
I think
they're in
they're
the
playing
playoffs.
okay.
Yeah.
I think they've beat some good teams, and despite the injuries, that's why I had them where they.
But I did have the Colts ahead of them because I think right now the Colts are a better team.
I had Titans 10th and Colts at 11th.
Yeah. Like you say, it's much of a much.
Coin toss.
Outside the top 6 or 7 and the bottom 4,
Yeah.
it's like throw a dart at the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, it shows.
I mean, I can't believe Paul put the Jags top. That's terrible.
He would have just to piss me off. Actually, no.
Unbelievably,
he would have known that pissing me off most would meant going Eagles number 1.
Unbelievably, he put his puppy and his employers in the bottom 2, and I don't know why.
So let's look ahead to week 15, and with college football on a break until the bowl games kick.
Saturday ball.
We have Saturday games. So Thursday night we've got Kansas at Chargers.
Anybody think that the Chargers are winning that?
Maybe.
No, I'm going to Chiefs.
I'm going Chiefs.
just because of the
I
defence.
will go Chiefs, but I don't think it's a.
I think it's going to be a
foregone
really
conclusion.
good game.
I think it's
Three,
gonna be a great
3-point game.
Yeah.
Saturday games are Vegas at Cleveland.
That's terrible.
It's a horrible game.
Cleveland will win
But
that.
The other game, though.
the other game, I think, could be a fucking stonker.
I actually think
Pats
because it's
at
in,
Colts.
I think because it's in Indianapolis, I think the Colts will win it. I really do. That's not to do the Pats
I
down.
think
I
it
just
could
think,
be. It could be another 3-point
I'm
game.
not sure that'd be a bad thing for you to
address the balance. I just think
yeah.
Jonathan Taylor could probably run all over us. Really do.
But yeah, so yeah, any choice games from the Sunday Monday games?
Yeah, there's a couple, but there's not many. It's a slate of not great.
Texans at Jags.
I am a fan of misery, so yeah. Jags,
And you've got
Jags
Jets
hosting the
Dolphin as
Tex-
well.
Oh yeah, it's bad. No, I mean that could,
Bengals Broncos could be a tight game.
Yeah, I don't think that's bad. I actually think Green Bay at Baltimore, only because I think the Ravens really have to win. And I don't know if they can, but I think this is going to be one of those defining games of the season where they have to win.
If they don't improve on the old injury front, that could be a
If they don't get
whitewash.
Lamar back, I don't think they'll win.
If the Browns win and the Ravens lose next week, then the division becomes very, very tight, doesn't it?
And I think that could quite
Easily
conceivably happen.
Tetons at Steelers, I think the Steelers have got a chance, because I still think the Tetons are a week or two away from being back to where they should be. But I think that'll be a close game as well. I actually don't mind football team at Eagles. I think that'll be tight. It might be not great, but I think it'll be a tight game. But the rest of them, I don't know. I'd like to see what the Bills do. They should absolutely wipe the floor with Carolina.
I think they will.
I think Bills need a big
look,
game.
But look at some of the bad teams they've faced this season, and they have lost.
I just think they've lost 2 in a row now. I think they know they need to win a game. And I think that's as good a chance of winning.
Houston at Jacksonville. It's just
Toilet bowl.
The toilet bowl of the season. It's just the worst game.
I mean,
It's beyond that,
Is
isn't
this
it?
why you've invited me to your house for Red Zone? So we
Yeah.
can just sit there laughing at
It's
this.
the skid mark of the NFL this year.
It's the one you cannot get off
Yeah.
no matter what you do.
Yeah, there's some
You've got to buy the blue
butt
bleach
nugget.
for that one.
Yeah.
Crusty butt nugget.
Monday we got Kirk playing prime time again.
How is he? He's always in prime time. I don't
Just
understand.
because the NFL hate him.
Prime time Kurt against the Bears. Do you know what? That's exactly the
Isn't
sort.
it because he's at church on Sundays?
I don't know. It's exactly the sort of game the Vikings lose.
I'm about to
I
say.
think the Bears will win that.
I've got a funny feeling.
You want to
Bears-
get that sorted out?
Well-
That's exactly the sort of game I expect
Everyone-
Kirk to throw 2 interceptions and what's his name, Montgomery, to run all over the Vikings, and the Bears pull out a late win because the Vikings will throw it away.
Yeah, I think. Once again, another very tight win, but I think the Vikings. Might
It's going to be
fuck that one up.
funny how quickly the wind is going to go out the Saints' sails, by the way, when they have to take on the Bucks this week and get stomped.
They're going to get annihilated.
But yeah, so full complement of games because bye weeks are now over. So and of course, fantasy playoffs are starting.
For
Not
many.
all, not all. My work leagues, I've still got to earn my playoff position.
It's only because I didn't even consider the extra game. So I think it's good because it means
Yeah.
more players are active because there's so many teams still involved. Those playoffs are going to be good this year.
I think the whole league goes to week 18 like quite significantly based on where everyone is at the moment. Not sure if I like it or not, but yeah, it's been fun.
Well, let's get there. Yeah. Anything else to add or?
Not really. I mean, Urban Meyer's a dickhead.
That's a good note to close on.
It is. Good night.